There is a strange kind of heartbreak in watching someone destroy themselves for a dream that they were never meant to have. Tai Long is the heartbreak given claws and form. He is not the monster of Kung Fu Panda. He is the consequence of a system that worships potential until it starts to look inconvenient. This isn't a redemption story, no. We're just going to cut open the myth of the chosen one to see what really rots underneath. And unfortunately, the smell you're noticing, that's mentorship gone wrong. Every tragedy starts with affection. Shifu didn't find Tai Long. He adopted him, raised him, polished him into proof that his own teachings worked. When a master tells a student, you are destined for greatness, what it really means is you are my legacy. Tai Long's childhood was therefore not about love, but about evidence. Every kick, every perfect stance was Shifu whispering to himself, see, I can make something magnificent. And that's how he turned devotion into dependency. By the time Tai Long could walk, the idea of destiny had already fused to his bones. He was told he was born to be the dragon warrior long before he could even understand what the title meant. Destiny became his comfort blanket, his compass, and eventually his cage. Here's the first uncomfortable truth. When people grow up believing the extraordinary, they rarely learn how to survive being ordinary. The Kung Fu Panda universe runs on one cruel idea that worthiness is something external, measured by mystical approval or ancient scrolls. Oogway, who is the walking fortune cookie, builds an entire spiritual economy around the notion that some people are chosen. Everyone else? Decorative background marks. Shifu bought into it completely. He trained Tai Long not to find peace but to prove he was the one. And when you raise a student to chase worthiness, you raise an addict. Think about it. Tai Long never learned to fight for protection, justice, or balance. He fought for applause. That makes him the first recorded victim of spiritual capitalism, investing his entire soul in a title that could crash any day. And Oogway's refusal wasn't a moral judgment. It was a social correction. The tortoise saw ambition and mistook it for corruption. He didn't teach Tai Long a lesson, he punished him for being a mirror. Because Tai Long showed them what the system really produced. Not enlightenment, but entitlement. Nobody likes seeing the monster in their reflection. So instead of helping the boy unlearn his illusions, Oogway simply stamped unworthy on his destiny file and closed the case. Shifu stood there, paralyzed by the kind of guilt that looks a lot like cowardice. It is easy to talk about balance when you're not the one being unbalanced. When Tai Long finally snapped, it wasn't rebellion. It was grief. Every strike, every roar was him screaming, you promised me this mattered. And here's the second uncomfortable truth. People don't become dangerous because they're evil. They become dangerous because they've been lied to about what makes them valuable. Let's not pretend Tai Long didn't make horrific choices. He did. But look closer. What options did he have? When a whole belief system is built on external validation, rejection doesn't just bruise the ego, it kills the self. His rampage was less about destruction and more about trying to prove that the rules were wrong. He wanted to rewrite reality with his fist. That's why his fall feels inevitable. The system that crowned him a prodigy had no plan for what to do if he failed. And that's the paradox of every meritocracy. It worships success stories, then throws away anyone who reminds it that success isn't permanent. Chogon Prison was treated in the movie like a punchline, an exaggerated fortress. But imagine 20 years alone, chained and watched, like the world pretends you never existed. That's a psychological composting. During those years, Tai Long didn't plot revenge. He rehearsed identity. And when he finally escaped, it wasn't because he wanted to hurt Shifu. He just wanted someone to say his name again. But here's the tragedy. Even his escape is seen as villainy, when it's actually the first honest act of self-recognition he ever performs. Then Po happens. The universe idea of a literal joke. A panda with zero discipline, no legacy, and a stomach that treats destiny like an all-you-can-eat buffet. Po's entire arc is an essay in cosmic favoritism. He didn't climb, he falls upward. Where Tai Long trained for decades, Po wins by accident. It's supposed to be inspiring, but it's really just nepotism disguised as inner peace. Tai Long's fury isn't jealousy, it's whiplash. Imagine watching the spiritual lottery pick someone who didn't even buy a ticket. That's when the satire turned philosophical. The moral that there is no secret ingredient might sound profound, but to someone who sacrificed his entire life chasing that ingredient, it's cruel comedy. The universe tells Tai Long, you worked too hard for something that never existed. And that's supposed to count as enlightenment? What? Let's pause on Shifu, the quiet archetype of this mess. He's praised for training Po, for finding peace, but his peace was purchased with someone else's ruin. Shifu never apologizes to Tai Long until it came for him, because that would require admitting that his teachings were flawed. Instead, it converts his guilt into mentorship, a softer, cuddlier version with dumpling and hugs. And in other professions, we call that rebranding. But it is easier to heal a panda than to face the corpse of your own parents and philosophy. Tai Long was a hero by the rules he wasn't given. The problem is that the rules were garbage. He fulfilled every requirement, skill, courage, devotion, except the unspoken one. Be effortlessly humble about it. He failed a vibe check, not a moral test. And the irony is that Paul becomes a true hero precisely because he refuses to play by those same rules. He succeeds by not trying to be chosen. Meanwhile, Tai Long, raised to embody perfection, is exiled for caring too much. That's not justice, that's narrative fashion. Oogway's philosophy is basically passive-aggressive fate. He preaches detachment but uses it to excuse neglect. Let things happen as they are meant to be sounds wise until you realize it's just spiritualized apathy. Tai Long is punished for wanting control in a world run by people who hold it. He doesn't crave domination, he craves certainty. He wants to know why he was told he was special if it was all a lie. Oogway never gives him that answer because the system can't survive transparency. It only works if people keep believing destiny is real. So Tai Long had to be exiled, not because it was wrong, but because it was asking questions that threatened the franchise. We often treat rage as corruption, but in Tai Long's story, anger is the only honest emotion left. Everyone else hides behind serenity and slogans. He at least feels something real. His fury isn't chaos, it's coherence. It's the one emotion that still lingers with his sense of self. He's not trying to destroy peace, he's trying to prove that peace built on denial isn't real. He loses because he is right in the wrong world. Every society needs its false hero, someone who proves the system is fair by failing within it. Tai Long validates Oogway's wisdom, and Po's rise. If he had succeeded, the myth would have collapsed. That's why he had to lose. He is the necessary casualty of an ideology that can't afford introspection. And that's what makes the ending sting. Po defeats Tai Long not through enlightenment, but through comic absurdity. A fight staged as slapstick. Every punchline lands harder than every punch. It's funny, yes, but also cruel. The film literally laughs at a man's breakdown because it needs the audience to move on. Humor becomes the moral. And when Po says there's no secret ingredient, but to Tai Long, it's confirmation that his entire life was built on a lie. Imagine spending decades mastering every move, every breath, every strike, only to be told that it was all a lie. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye.